105.5 FM.
In the story of progress, every chapter of development adds depth, richness, and meaning to our collective narrative. From the smallest steps to the grandest strides, every act of development paves the way for a brighter tomorrow. Welcome to the Development Report on People's 105.5 FM, where we talk about pressing issues surrounding sustainable development. I'm all about everything development, from women's empowerment to children's rights, climate change, energy, water resources, food waste management, and more. I am Ife Onyekwere, and together we'll be coming close to our common good as a nation as we look into catalyzing green entrepreneurship in Nigeria. And I will not be doing this alone. We have an amazing guest in the studio, Mr. Igwebuike Ijoma, a board member, Climate Strategies, think tank London, UK, and he's also the Nigerian country representative for World Council of Renewable Energy. And he's also an enviropreneur. Good to have you here, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ife.
And how are you doing? How are you doing today?
Very well.
Okay. Well, I think I should let our guests know that you are also a strong believer of preserving our mother's tongue, because you didn't have it likely with me the first time I spoke to you. You're
it's
welcome,
all part
sir.
of sustainability. I mean, our language or local languages are not sustainable. They're going into extinction, and then we can't really solve the existential crisis we have if we don't dig deep and go back to the indigenous knowledge which we sidelined. So they are getting into mainstream. Well, when we get into that,
I think
it's all part of it. It's all part of it.
I think we need to have a discussion some other time on this, even though I'm a little guilty about that, but I think it's something we need to talk about. All right, so we're discussing green entrepreneurship, and we're going to be talking about the practice of starting and running a business that focuses on environmental sustainability, social responsibility, and even economic viability. Talking about businesses that are creating innovative solutions to address environmental challenges. Businesses as renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, waste management, eco-friendly products, production, and conservation. And we're going to you can actually join the conversation when we start discussion with our guest. You can send in your opinion or your questions on WhatsApp via 0911 112-1055, and you can also ring us on 0911-222-1055. And on Twitter, I am at TDEV Report, TDEV Report. All right, we'll be taking the development news stories shortly.
We inform, we educate, we entertain. We are the people's 105.5 FM, Abuja.
Nigeria ranks low in digital development. USAID CEO boosts initiatives for youth employment and energy access. WHO urges swift action against mpox in Africa. Report from Statisense says Nigeria is ranked as number 24 in digital development in Africa. The report, released on Thursday, the 29th of August, assessed countries based on Information and Communication Technology Development Index. The report shows Nigeria is behind Ghana and Kenya in ICT development, with a score of 46.9% compared to Ghana of 66.2% and Kenya with 58.5%. Commenting on the report, Abiola Jimoh, co-founder of Exchange says that Nigeria's reliance on imported components, which requires foreign currency and inconsistent policy directions, are major barriers to attracting investment in the technology sector. President and CEO of the United States African Development Foundation, USAID, Travis Atkins, recently visited Lagos, Nigeria, to strengthen partnerships aimed at tackling youth and women unemployment and promoting gender equality. During his visit, Atkins announced a new grant for Nigerian climate tech company. He highlighted that the funding will support the local assembly and distribution of the organization's energy solutions, benefiting small businesses and households in energy-poor communities. He also met with Lagos State officials, including the Commissioner for Wealth Creation and Employment and representatives from the Lagos State Employment Trust Funds. Following their discussions, the USADF CEO confirmed the renewal of the USADF and Lagos State Employment Trust Fund partnership for another 5 years. The World Health Organization has called for urgent action to address the spread of mpox in Africa, as highlighted by WHO DG Dr. Tedros Adhanom in a recent media briefing. Dr. Tedros emphasized the need for heightened vigilance and rapid response efforts across African countries to curb the rise in mpox cases and prevent further outbreaks. Dr. Tedros outlined the importance of improving surveillance, testing, and access to vaccines and treatments for mpox, thereby calling African governments and international partners to work together to enhance diseases preparedness and response capabilities. And that's it on the development news segment, and I'll be giving an update of data surrounding green entrepreneurship, and then we'll take a music break, after which we're going to be having our guests discuss the importance, the challenges, and the way forward to green entrepreneurship. Africa is the report here says Africa has significant potential for green entrepreneurship, particularly in sectors such as renewable energy, that's solar, wind, and waste management, water management, and sustainable agriculture. Now, coming down to Nigeria, it says Nigeria is home to a growing number of green startups, particularly in renewable energy and waste management. Times have changed. You meet people and they tell you, oh, I own a startup in renewable energy. I own a startup in waste management, and I wouldn't want to mention names, but we have a lot, we have some of them already coming up. And in Nigeria, the report says there are policies to support green entrepreneurship, such as Renewable Energy Master Plan and the National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Policy. And so with all this in place, our guest is going to be dissecting how we can move forward and the opportunities for us as a country when we come back from a music break.
Children crying, why doesn't it break your heart? Can't you see our people dying? When did this world get so dark? We're not perfect, but we're trying. We all need to play a part, cause things will never change. It'll always stay the same until we do something about it. Talk and do, we need to just stop talking about it. We must talk and do. Why don't you do something?
Yo, this is not a song, it's a statement about the state of a very lost generation. How could we let our little boys become rapists? And how could we let all of our love just turn to hatred? In the States we see cases of racism. White cops kill us cause we have black faces. And in Africa, I don't know where to begin. The same kind of murder, the same color of skin. And we don't care to use our platforms to make a difference. Prefer to drag each other on Twitter so we could trend. We filter all our Instagram pictures just to pretend like we're happy. True happiness only comes from within. And I don't watch the news cause it's all bad. Different days, same hashtags. Different names, different victims, same flashbacks. It don't concern you. May your children never also have to say me too. Amen. They ask me why I'm so consumed with community service. It's cause my community's hurting. My community's dirty. No one bats an eyelid. Cause everyone thinks it's someone else's problem to fix. And everyone prefers not to delve into politics. So why are we upset that the system's so full of ish? The nation that we need is our responsibility. The country we want to see, it starts with you and me.
Something about it. Talk and do. We need to just stop talking about it. We must talk and do. Why don't you do something about it? Talk and do. We need to just stop talking about it. We must talk and do. Why don't you do something. Where is the love? Where is the patience? We're a boy, don't know what's the difference. It don't let too much, talking, looting and violence. Repeating the same thing, if you check, I'm not madness. We need a solution, time for some action. Too much talk, committee, no they function. The answer we define, it ain't inside me and you.
Okay.
Now it's time for all of us to talk and do.
Come on.
Talking on the change anything. This is not the time for action.
Yes.
Talking on the solve anything.
Timmy Dacola. Let's go.
So talking on the change anything.
This is not the time for action. Talking on the solve anything.
This bless my home. This bless my home. No place like home. We don't complete the plan of the leaders of the yesterday.
Talking on the solve anything.
Yes.
People's 105.5 FM presents Rising to Stardom. Are you an upcoming contemporary or gospel artist and you want to get your music or song heard on radio and all online streaming platforms? Then here is your opportunity to rise to stardom. Send your song to the email risingtostardom105@gmail.com or visit our studio, People's 105.5 FM, number 4 Ordinia Close, up Libreville Street, Wuse 2, Abuja, for possible airplay of your song. And guess what? You could be the next rated artist rising to become the next superstar. Call us on 070-4700-1055. People's 105.5 FM. It's all about you.
University Nigeria is a private leading university established in the year 2023 and approved by the National Universities Commission. Hensford University focuses on bridging the gap between academic certification, skills development, and practical industrial application. Hensford University, your gateway to the future, also emphasizes entrepreneurship education and holistic approach for character formation, leadership development, and solid spiritual foundation. We have a state-of-the-art library for convenient studies. Hensford University is located at Sagbama Local Government Area in Bayelsa State. Hensford University has the following faculties: Faculty of Agriculture, Faculty of Science and Computing, Faculty of Environmental Sciences, Faculty of Mass Communication, Faculty of Arts, Social and Management Sciences. Hensford University is built on integrity and honor, courage and conviction, love and compassion towards all. Come to Hensford University today and unlock your potentials. For inquiries, please call 0916-998-5150 or 0916-998-5153. Email is registrar@hensforduniversity.edu.ng. Website is www.hensforduniversity.edu.ng. Hensford University, service to man is service to God.
It's still the development report, and you're listening to If You New Query, and we're discussing catalyzing green entrepreneurship in Nigeria. And we have in the studio an amazing guest, Mr. Igwebike Ijoma. He's an enviropreneur, and he's going to be discussing the subject of discussion, catalyzing green entrepreneurship in Nigeria. You can join the conversation on all our social media platforms at People's 105.5 FM, and on telephone you can reach us on 0911-222-1055. Let me take that again. On telephone you can reach us on 0911-222-1055. And on WhatsApp you can send in your messages to 0911-112-1055. On Twitter I am at TDEV Report, TDEV Report. All right, great to have you in the studio, sir.
Thank you, Ify.
Yes, sir. Could you just give us an overview of green entrepreneurship?
Yeah, green entrepreneurship, what I like to call enviropreneurship, is actually the effort of by the effort by entrepreneurs to save or conserve the environment or conserve nature, right? Because we realize that the raw barefoot in the jungle kind of capitalism we've been practicing in the last 100 years has led us to biodiversity extinction, climate change, global warming and all of that. And so we are beginning to see the organic relationship between the environment and the economy, and then our livelihood and our health.
That's right.
So that's consciousness that everything draws from the environment. So if the physical environment is not, or the natural environment is not sustainable or is compromised, then we are compromising our economy, we are compromising our health and livelihood. So it's all the whole effort to course correction.
That's right.
Yeah, and to say, hey, wait a minute, we are getting it wrong. We need to consider environmental dimensions or the environmental impact of what we are doing, right? So we need to consider the environmental impact. We need to consider also the social impact. We also need to consider the economic impact. And then, of course, the profit motivation, right? So because of that need, so there is now some kind of motivation to course correct and for entrepreneurs to really come up with innovation that will help the environment to regenerate, right? So we are talking of regenerative agriculture, climate smart agriculture, organic farming, and all of that. So in the last maybe 3 decades ago, these things were not fashionable.
Exactly.
We were told about organic fertilizer and all of that. So it's all part of the trying to build an efficient circular economy as against the linear inefficient economy that takes, makes, breaks, and now wastes the value, right, or the resources. So now we are going secular, right?
Yeah.
In the first place, do you really need to buy this, reduce, or avoid?
That's
if you
right.
Can't, can you finish this?
Yeah.
Right. So why don't you reduce? And then when you get that product, why also don't you reuse it?
That's right.
Right. And then if you can't reuse it, why don't you also recycle it instead of throwing it to waste?
Amazing.
Directly or dump sites and all of that. So it's all part of that ecosystem, part of that consciousness to course correct. So that's why we are talking about green entrepreneurship, or what I would like to call enviropreneurship.
Amazing. Thank you for that contribution. Talking about capitalism, I believe for every business owner, profit is the goal. You're speaking to a business owner, regardless of what is going to come up or what's going to be in line, the next line of action. Profit has to be the goal because the business needs to run. So how can green businesses in Nigeria, balance profitability and environmental sustainability? Or even people who probably are listening right now who have businesses but are not, practicing sustainable business practices, how can they manage, their profitability and environmental sustainability?
Yes. So it's to, first of all, to realize that we are all part of the, the ecosystem.
That's right.
We are part, or we are encapsulated in this planetary ensemble called the Earth.
That's right.
Right. And that every single activity that we do here actually impacts either the environment or human beings.
That's right.
So that consciousness is now for how it's not just about profitability, because this is actually how we arrived at this
here.
point,
Yes.
right? It's profitability, profit. So now that's what we call the triple bottom line. Right? So you talk about the profit, you talk about the planet, and you talk about the people. So you have to ask yourself, this is my business. How does it serve? How does it impact the people? How does it impact the planet? And then how does it impact, my profit?
That's right.
So marrying the three is actually how we now come about sustainability. So the profit has always been there. What was lacking? I mean, the profit has always been there if we are still going to achieve the green or the environmental or social dimensions.
That's right.
But the thing is that the consciousness and knowledge, they were lacking. They were lacking then. So you see that, for instance, in Nigeria, the last presidential election, right?
Yeah.
Climate change suddenly became an issue. It wasn't that much of an issue. It wasn't even an item in 2019.
Yeah.
It wasn't even there in 2015.
I guess because the impact is becoming more.
Yes. So politicians now all over the world, in fact in Europe and in the global north, you are having green parties. Parties that say all our policies, all our legislation, everything we're going to do is how to regenerate the environment. And they are getting a whole lot of people, right? And so there are, because the consumers as well, because that knowledge and consciousness is there. So there are now people who are going to boycott businesses that are, that have demonstrated that they don't care about the environment or they don't care about people. So you have this, this boycott movement and say, hey, this business, this is what they're doing. They don't care about people and all of that. So nobody, because a critical mass of the population, they are really conscious because they are feeling the impact of some of these whole issues. So, I mean, the Niger Delta is there to show everybody that, right? There is something wrong with our linear, inefficient economic model.
Talking about the gap in knowledge, now taking it down to entrepreneurs, people who are doing their businesses. I believe, I don't know if you agree with me, but the knowledge gap right here in our country is much compared to, some of the places you mentioned. Yeah. Okay. So what skills do you think, or what needs to be done to actually close this gap, in knowledge gap to support, green entrepreneurship, more people, embracing sustainability, more people embracing, the green world and all like that. What skills need to be? So
the skill, I mean, for you to be ahead in anything you're doing, right, you have to be aware, right? So for you to be ahead, you have to be aware.
Punctured.
Yeah,
that's right.
You have to be aware. So, I mean, that's enough motivation.
True.
For you. I mean, the news is everywhere.
That's right.
It's in our faces, everywhere on the internet, and so try as much as possible to be aware of what's happening. Be aware of where the world is going, where the trend, is moving, right? So the other one is now the policy dimension. That's where the government comes in to say, wait a minute, right? We have to create incentives. And I'll give you an example. So as we speak, Nigeria has one of the highest rates of deforestation globally.
Okay.
And then you have to demonstrate how these things are linked, right?
Yeah.
So we have highest rate of deforestation, and then we are still cutting trees, right, to make paper, right? So the paper you are using in the office, the paper the ministries are using, the paper the private sector offices, everyone is using. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the trees.
That's right.
Now, how is it that cutting trees and to produce that paper is actually cheaper than recycled paper? Have you thought about that? So that's a negative, that's a bad motivation. I mean, bad incentive for businesses, right?
Would rather cut the trees than recycle.
It's cheaper, right? So let's cut the tree. It's easier, cheaper, so, but that's where the government comes in to say, no, we are going to recalibrate.
That's right.
And then we create policies that will now, rechannel that energy towards getting what? Recycled paper. Remember, the recycled paper is actually the trees that have been previously cut and then used and dumped. So why don't we create a market for recycled paper and actually make it much more attractive for businesses to go into producing recycled paper? Because everywhere you look around, you see paper everywhere, right? So that's where the government comes in. And one of the tools, or one of the specific policy tools, is what I call sustainable procurement policy, right? Yeah. So how can a bank use their purchasing power to influence entrepreneurs?
Amazing.
And say, oh, we're going to buy recycled paper at a premium. That's what we will be using.
It will even attract lots of interest.
So when you hear such a thing and say, oh, this bank or this government, or they said, oh, they are not going to their order. The order they will be buying only recycled paper. So there is already a market.
Sustainable procurement.
Yes, sustainable procurement.
Amazing.
And that's what we've been promoting, right?
Amazing.
Sustainable procurement, both at the private sector level, because you have big businesses. For instance, the Dangotes and the conglomerates and all of that. You can come and say, hey, so we have to do 50-50. So we create a market and say we can only buy from suppliers who have recycled papers.
Wow.
And what does that mean? So the information goes to the entrepreneurs and say, hey, the demand, because once it starts, so the trend, say, oh, so in the next 10 years, there won't be markets, for instance, so you created this incentive for cutting down trees, right? And then it also fits into, I was explaining it to during a workshop last week in Lagos. The subsidy removal is a big incentive for deforestation.
I bet a lot of audience want to hear.
Have you seen the link?
Yeah.
Between removing energy subsidies and driving families who have been using cleaner or clean cook stoves or clean cooking methods. And gas becomes very expensive. Kerosene becomes very expensive. So what you're saying is you are pushing people to start you are forcing people to start cutting trees, to using coal and firewood. And then, so you see, if we don't think these things through, and that's why personally, what I've been advocating is not subsidy removal, but rather subsidy transition. Move the subsidies from petrol, PMS, to LPG. That's all the government needs to do. And that is taking it from the source, right? And not at the consumption that's, downstream. So we know the people who are producing, we know the companies who are producing gas. And again, government says, because when we subsidize petroleum, people, hoard it or smuggle it across the borders, right? So now nobody's going to smuggle. It's difficult to smuggle gas. So move the subsidy, right, from PMS, transfer it to gas, so that we can stop slow down the high rate of deforestation, which we are seeing. So a lot of families are going back into using charcoal, right, and firewood. So now, when that happens, so you are going to see a lot of businesses along that gas value chain, because gas is, right, cleaner. So people who are going to come up with, innovation or investments in that gas sector, that could be also part of entrepreneurship that we're talking about. That's also part of the green and businesses that we want to see booming.
Yeah, thank you very much for that explanation. We are still discussing catalyzing green entrepreneurship in Nigeria, and I'm opening the phone lines. You can send in your messages on WhatsApp on 0911 112 1055, and you can call in on 0911 222 1055. All right. Someone who has a business, or who has been running a business without the orientation of sustainability, could be asking right now, so how can I, as a business owner, communicate this value proposition to my customers and those who come around me to who know about my business? I've been running my business without the idea or the knowledge of sustainability, or the awareness of climate change and all like that. So if I want to transition, if I want to do something that differentiates me, how do I communicate this value to my customer without without them? Because now there's a problem in knowledge gap now. So trying to embrace sustainability, how do I still maximize my profit as a business owner and communicate this to my customer?
So how do you maximize profits as a business owner, and then while transitioning towards green dimension of the business, right?
Yes.
And how do you communicate it to the business? So you see, that's where the marketing comes in, right? So marketing, instead of, for instance, our marketing is focused on functionality, right? So you get this phone and say, oh, the pixel is this, the battery is this, it doesn't really make sense to the average person.
That's right.
So you market the benefits as against the functionalities.
Amazing.
That shift in thinking or in the marketing, right? So this product, when you buy it, this is actually the advantage. Now, for instance, if you're buying product that pollutes and you are able to show your clients that this product you're buying, right? Why don't you, I use the example of firewood and gas that I mentioned previously, right? So how do you get somebody using firewood to transition to gas, or using coal to transition to gas? First of all, is to show these are the advantages of what you are doing, and this is how it affects you personally, right? So there's WHO, World Health Organization statistics that says that Nigeria is losing about 93,000 women dying from prolonged inhalation of smoke and soot as a result of prolonged use of firewood for cooking. 93,000 annually. Most people are not aware of this.
But we just feel like it's the cheapest way.
Yeah, at what cost to the health? So if this is part of the marketing, right? That you say that this firewood you are using, or this coal you are using, is generating soot that you are breathing in, taking in, and then this compromises your respiratory system over time, and this leads to what? Mortality, right? So people dying, and this is actually the statistics. So for someone who is aware of that, so that begins to make an impact. To say, do I want to use my money to buy something that will harm me?
Instead of the one that is more.
So that's the shift in the marketing.
Idea.
So we move from functionality, marketing functionality, right, to say, marketing benefits. And that's where we're going to move.
So talking about the implications, of having number of rise in the number of green entrepreneurs, I want us to look at this angle, because we know that green entrepreneurship in Nigeria would have the potential, to drive sustainable development, create employment opportunities, promote environmental conservation, and then one very important thing is to address climate change. So what are the implications of a rise in the number of green entrepreneurs on climate change? What would this be doing to the climate?
So it will help stabilize the climate. How? Because businesses that are green naturally, they tend to reduce pollution, they tend to reduce emission, they tend to reduce water contamination, right? So, and when all of that, we're able to achieve that, it means that collectively, these businesses will be helping Nigeria to achieve achieve the realization of the targets of what we call the NDCs, nationally determined contribution. So the nationally determined contribution is actually our own document. It's part of because Nigeria signed up to the Paris Climate Change Agreement.
Yeah.
So this is the document that's like our own building block, just one block of that whole. So the NDC, our NDC talks about, it covers 7 economic sectors, right? Waste sector, water sector, transportation, energy, agriculture, and IPP, industry, the industry sector, manufacturing, and all that. So these businesses would help Nigeria meet up with our commitment, achieve what we have committed to the global community. And this is also in the Paris Climate Change Agreement, in the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which will be ending by 2030, right? And then in the Global Biodiversity Framework.
Amazing. Okay. I want us to talk about opportunities. I don't want us to end this conversation without talking about opportunities that exist between green entrepreneurs and international marketplace. How would you describe? Are there opportunities available for startups who are into green entrepreneurs? And how can they assess these opportunities so they don't feel like they are trying to save they are doing their bid to save the earth and then they are left behind? So what opportunities are there for startups or even those already in business for a couple of years to partner with international space? Okay,
so the opportunities they're quite massive. For instance, we have the global investment flow, and this is one of the fastest rising or expanding investment sector, right, where a lot of money is being pumped into.
But really, I think you need to say that again so they hear it again.
This is actually the fastest growing.
Amazing.
The investment coming in here is because if you look at it, I'll give you an example. As at December 2022, the investment pouring in, it has moved in the last 5 years from maybe 600. It has doubled in the last 5 years from 600 and something $billion to 1.3 trillion as of December 2023.
Amazing.
So whether you are doing waste, you are
management, waste management,
sustainable waste management, not waste management, right? You have to define it.
That's right.
It has to be sustainable waste management, sustainable water management, right? Green manufacturing. Right? So green building. So you're building using environmentally responsible materials or environmentally or climate compatible materials, right? So green building, green transportation. How do we use more of rail and more of electric vehicles and more of and less of the internal combustion engines, right? Because again, before we even talk about climate change, this impacts our health directly. It impacts our
Nigerians
health.
Need to hear that this impacts
our health directly. And, maybe, I don't know if your station covered this or you must have heard of what we call the soot epidemic in Port Harcourt or in River State, where every white surface has a dark tint. So if you're going to go to Wuse Market, for instance, and if you're going out and spend 2-3 hours. So if you're wearing white, you're going to see, soot on the white. By the time you come back, so that's how bad things can get, right? So the question is, this 1.3 trillion US dollars. How do we get it?
Assess it.
How do we assess it? And because this resources are not conventional, right? They must go into sustainable businesses. And then there are ways that there are things that you need to do, both for governments and for private businesses.
Okay. Yeah, so with this you've just mentioned, with the whole monies involved and with the potential involved, I would want you to advise upcoming green entrepreneurs, in 1 minute, just advise them, people who are considering this, and the potential this could actually give to their businesses, bearing in fact that there are lots of opportunities and funds available. Yeah,
there are opportunities and funds available. My advice to enviropreneurs would be to try as much as possible to stay aware. Read up on the information about environment and climate change and all of that, right? I mean, and then join pressure groups or join associations, right? So we can have Green Entrepreneurs Association of Africa, or Green Entrepreneurs Association of Nigeria, or something. Organize yourselves and then begin to engage the government, and then begin to engage the multilateral agencies and the international community as well.
Wow.
Stay engaged. Just be active within that community, right? Be active within that community. If your businesses, you can invest in this awareness creation, public education and all of that, and sponsor those kind of events.
Very well. Are you sure I'm not going to consider going into